have CSR as a mandatory obligation. And today I'm delighted to welcome and invite Mr. Sushil Mehta, Senior Partner at Mashiach Torah Legal. So we'll be sharing a better perspective about CSR and its legal position along with it, and he will also be sharing his valuable insights on the changes brought about during the pandemic. So Mr. Mehta is a certified CSR professional with over 18 years of profound experience in corporate commercial consultancy, compliance management, CSR advisory, and audit, which are just amongst a few of the services he is involved in. And so it's a true delight to have you here today. So over to you. And before that, I'd just, request you to talk about so far in law.
Okay, yeah. First of all, thank you to LawSikho to giving me an opportunity to interact with you all people and share my experience in this area. And as I totally believe, like, knowledge sharing is gaining, and with interacting with you while answering your questions, my knowledge is also getting tested and increased by such exercise. And as Fazia has said, like, okay, there's a vast experience attached to it. Yes, I'm been into consulting since starting of my professional life. And what I feel good about consulting is, like, every day you face a new kind of inquiry from the client. So it's not kind of a monotonous thing, like you are doing it regular basis, but every day you face a new query. And sometimes, being a professional also, you said, okay, I have read this, but you have to explore it again, because the query is something related to a provision. There will be a sub provision, there will be clarification, case laws, and all that stuff. So that is kind of an interesting self-study kind of stuff. Like, okay, this is the concept which I understood, but now there's a like query, so I need to explore it in that way, like whether it's allowed, advisable, or something like that. So yes, it's an interesting field, and for all the professionals who are looking into getting into this field and join the law industry, this is a niche area, and a good potential is there in the CSR field as such, as I was speaking initially on this. So it's kind of an giving an opportunity to a professional who to, you can say, even explore it's all arenas, including consulting, advisory, monitoring, audit, whatnot. So it's a niche area for the India so we'll be taking up more of a legal perspective, and what a young professional doing a practice or advising its clients in this area should look into. With that, I think I'll present my small presentation I have made. So we'll be discussing about this in next, I think, half an hour or 45 minutes. And if you have questions, you'll be more than welcome to pose it. And I think Fazia would monitor that for me and raise it to me. I'll try to cover it as we go along, or we can take it in the later half of the presentation as well as it goes. So Fazia, be free to interrupt me in between where question is relating to the topic we are talking about. Right. So with that,
Yes.
I'll try to share my presentation. Is it visible to all?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So it's about the corporate social responsibility, and we'll be talking about the recent amendments. And when we talk about corporate social responsibility, it is not a new concept for the Indian industry, and I would say Indian culture, tradition, and scriptures. It's kind of a philosophy of giving back to the society which gives you a basic background or basic understanding. And so CSR is like giving back to the society, right? So it is already there in our Indian tradition, customs, and scriptures. You might have seen your seniors or the parents or the family members parting a part of their income to a philanthropic work or a charitable work. So generally it's 10%, which we normally heard our elders telling us, like, okay, you should contribute this much of your earning throughout the year to a charitable work. So it's very much in our tradition. And Indian corporate houses like Tata's, Reliance, Infosys, and such big houses are doing it voluntarily since ages. But as Fawzia has also mentioned, in 2014, with the amendment in Companies Act 2013, India became the first country to legally enforce it on the companies meeting certain financial criteria. So we'll be taking up what is the legal mandate around the CSR in India. So one is section 135 of the Companies Act, which talks about CSR and who are the eligibility and all that stuff. Then there are CSR policy rules 2014. There is schedule 7, which talks about the areas and the activities around which the CSR project should be there. And then there are clarifications issued by MCA from time to time, because people used to get to the MCA seeking some clarification. So yeah, they have come up. And then there are case laws, and there is an advisory issued by 𝗖𝗺 and 𝗖cie. So we all being as professional, how to check is what is the legal position as on date, because this area legal field is such, like on a daily basis there are amendments, notifications, clarifications. So I think MC has given very good tool. So I've tried to take a screenshots of some of them to let you know, like if you are struck, where to see if a legal provision I'm reading is correct or not. So you can go to the site mca.gov.in. This is Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. You can click on Acts and Rules. So there in this there are all the rules like Companies Act, limited liability, insolvency, competition, partnership. All the acts which comes within the purview of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs are listed there. And there is a feature like ebook. So this is ebook on Companies Act 2013. So when you click on this, there is a window like this, and you can click, if you know the section, you can put it here, or either you can put it the phrase which you know is coming in the clause you're looking at. Like for example, if you also put corporate social responsibility here, it will come like that. Like if I click on 135, if I put 135, it will open up like this. So you can see there is a different color coding, which is good to see, like all amendments when it come, and there is a footnote attached to it. So you can say, for example, there is a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you see downwards, you can very much see like whether it is effective or not effective. Like for example, 7, 8, 9 are yet to be notified. These are the amendment which brought in by the 2019 amendment. And there are some 2018 thing which has already been captured into the act as such. So it is a good tool where you can see 2020 amendments are not yet being captured here, but the ministry is in the process of getting that done. And very soon they'll be up for public to view all the amendments there. But as of now, you can also see like what has been notified, what has been yet to be notified. Then okay, on the 135, what does the legal requirement around CSR is? Just to give a snapshot of what does CSR legal requirement is. So the provision says every company having the following financial criteria in the preceding financial year. So if I'm today I'm sitting in October, I have to see, or previous financial year would be the immediately previous financial year for me. And if a company has a net worth of 500 crore or more, turnover of 1,000 crore or more, or net profit of 5 crore or more, all these are independent. The phrase uses or, not and. So I have to see if any one of the condition is met. What I have to do, I have to constitute a CSR committee, which should have minimum 2 directors, 2 or more. There can be more directors. And if your company is such where independent director is must, such independent director needs to be a part of the CSR committee. Then once you have made the committee, what you need to do, you need to spend 2% of average profits, average net profits. And what is the average you have to look into is the preceding 3 financial years. So average means as mathematically we do, even if in one year there is a profit and in a second year there is a loss, So plus minus plus you have to do, and average of 2% of average net profit you have to see. Then if you fails to spend, so what you need to do, it's you need to just report the reasons for not spending. So it's the law as it stands today is spend or explain. And the reasons for not spending could be anything genuine, where you see, okay, the companies went into the expansion, they have identified new land for the next projects to be implemented, reasons like that. So you choose not to spend, but to put it into the expansion kind of thing. But sometimes we have seen that the clients has also received show cause notices from the department saying, okay, the justification or the reasons you mentioned in your reports, annual reports and the director's report are not something which is acceptable. You need to put more details into it. Why? So the logic is like they want to check the bona fide of the explanation given. Whether it's like you're true to yourself, you're explaining the right reasons, or you're just playing around with the phrase used here. Then what is the role of the committee? CSR committee is to formulate, recommend and monitor the policy around CSR and even amount. And the board role is to approve, disclose it in the director's report and on the website of the company, and to ensure implementation of the overall CSR project. And what are the subjects? Subjects are as per Schedule 7. And it has been clarified, like you have to take a liberal interpretation of the activities or the subjects mentioned there. So it's not like you have to do hard fast that thing, but if your projects somehow deals with that area or subject, you can very well qualify as an CSR thing. Then the act also says you need to give preference to the local area, and the projects which are undertaken in India will qualify as an CSR projects, not outside India. Then there are rules. Rules also talk about certain requirements. So CSR project can be implemented either directly or through in collaboration with other companies. So you can identify companies within your vicinity and see, okay, something can be done for the area, local area. But this is allowed if you are able to report separately, like what all entities have contributed, what are the identified project you have undertaken. So this project is in collaboration with other companies is also something allowed. Then through implementing agencies. Implementing agencies could be three types, like it could be in company owned or government owned Section 8 registered trust or society. You can undertake CSR project through such implementing agency. Then there could be a third party Section 8 registered trust or society. If you are choosing to do it through third party, because there are some expert entities who are doing it since ages, like there are 𝗧𝗏 is there, and there are NGOs which you have heard during these COVID times, which come forward and do good projects for the country as such. So you can also even identify such implementing agency and contributes towards that for a specific project and assign an amount for that thing. But such third party implementing agency should have a track record of 3 years in undertaking similar projects. So while choosing such implementing agency, you need to take care of whether such an implementing agency is meeting such criteria. Then if projects are only benefiting your employees or their families, that will not be considered as in CSR. So phrase here uses only, and there are some clarifications or understanding around it, like if a project is in main local vicinity and there are employees and their families also residing, my project of my the objective of my project should be such, like it's open for all. It's not only giving preference to the employees of certain organization. And a benchmarking here is unstated benchmarking is 25%. Like, okay, your employees can also, so for example, you have organized a medical camp, and you have opened a dispensary kind of thing within your local vicinity, which is run by you, and your employees and the family members are also of them are also taking benefit of it. So it can be treated as a CSR project where you are able to show or prove, like, okay, there are other employees or other persons also coming, not only employees and their families are getting benefited out of such project. Then important aspect is admin expense, because obviously whenever you do a project, there is an admin expense attached to it. But the rule says it cannot exceed 5% of total CSR expend of the company in one financial year. And this percentage has a big, you can say, discussion point around the implementing agencies and the consultants, because their cost is also getting capped at 5%. So whatever the expense you feel would be there to implement such a project, it will be capped at 5%. And if you're contributing to any political party, it will not be a CSR, right? Which is very much clear, and it is coming very clear in the rules also. Another important and deliberating point recently been closed is like, earlier there is like, if you are doing something which is in normal course of your business, that will not be allowed as in CSR, right? But this provision has recently been omitted on 24th August 2020, where pharma companies have been allowed to do research and development activities in developing the vaccination for COVID-19. So it's otherwise also their normal course of business. So the ministry has thought to omit this condition where the companies can contribute under their normal course of business to undertake such activity. This also has an impact or a meaning, like even the CSR in kind is allowed. Say for example, I'm a stationery company and I want to distribute stationery kits to the area where there is no education availability, or the students are facing some difficulty, and out of my products I want to contribute. Earlier the point was like, because this is treated as a normal course of business, so there was point of contention. We'll take this CSR spending in cash or in kind in slide later. Next is Schedule 7, as what are the areas or the subject activities which are allowed as in CSR thing. So list is very vast. I can skip it or probably read it for you. It's like eradicating hunger, poverty, malnutrition, even contribution to Swachh Bharat or Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, or availability of safe drinking water, promoting education, gender equality, setting up homes and hostel for women and orphans, contribution to Clean Ganga Fund, and anything to do with environmental sustainability, ecological balance, something to do with the art and culture, preventing national protection of national heritage, right? Traditional arts and crafts, something to do with the armed forces veterans, right? Training of to promote rural sports, nationally recognized sports, and then contribution to Prime Minister National Relief Fund or PM Care Fund. And similarly, like even to the incubators for R&D activity, contribution to public funded universities, IITs, and even Ayush Ministry and projects developed by them. And then rural development projects, slum area development, and disaster management. So these are some of the areas identified by the ministry under Schedule 7, where they see these areas as in where you can undertake your CSR projects. Right. Then there are clarifications issued by a ministry from time to time. These are some of the initial clarifications of June 18, 2014, where they say, okay, Schedule 7 must be interpreted liberally so as to capture the essence of the subjects enumerated in the said schedule. So it's not specifically like, for example, although this list is also wide enough. For example, I want to do some vocational skill program for the youth in my area. I want to set up some computer training program or some basic education kind of thing. So if it's broadly covering under the Schedule 7 activities, you can very much do that. One-off events such as marathons, awards, charitable contribution, advertisements, sponsorship is not an CSR. An interesting query we received from one of the client in the remote areas is like, okay, we regularly contribute to the Ram Leela fund. We contribute normally to some of the religious functions, whether that will be tantamount to CSR. Though it's a big thing for their local area, but as per the clarification, that is not something which is treated as in CSR. Right. So it's like, it should not be a one-off an event. You are just promoting something like that. So it need to be an overall program which give a long-term benefit to the society, which has a sustainable model, so that you can really do well for the society for the time to come.
So I have a question.
Please.
So you said marathons are not included as a CSR activity. So when banks such as, Standard Chartered and all have these marathons on a yearly basis,
yes,
and then their contributions go to a certain organization, so will that be considered as a CSR activity?
So the clarification is, one of the events such as marathons is something which department doesn't want to promote, right? But some of the organization, as you have rightly said, is doing it on a regular basis, right? They have earmarked a fund for that, and sometimes these organizations are doing more than their statutory requirement, right? 2% is something which the act says, but we have seen the balance sheets of these companies. They are easily contributing more than 10% to these kind of activities. So some of the big organizations are voluntarily anyways doing this. So it's something like to avoid a mindset where people try to just you can say escape from the legal rule by just putting funds here and there, sponsoring one of the events or something like that. So they just want to clarify, like, okay, if you have a requirement to contribute towards CSR, it should not be like, okay, I'm just you can say sponsoring an award, right? So yeah, so that is something which. Okay. Then next is the expense incurred for fulfillment of any act or statute is not a CSR. The related example is, like, for example, if you get a factory license, or if you get a chance to see a factory license, some of the organizations have a requirement to give placements to the local hires and conduct some kind of a displacement work for the people who are working there, right? So that will not be a CSR. You have a question, right? Yeah, please.
So Debalina Nag says that if the proceeds directly go to the NGO, is it counted as CSR? Or if you could just clarify on my previous question. If the proceeds go to the NGO, will it be counted as a CSR activity?
Proceeds as of what?
Of the marathon, for example.
So there are two aspects attached to it. So one is if initial funding to organize a marathon, right? So that amount will tantamount to a CSR amount. If you are earning something out of it and it goes to somewhere, that is anyways not amount to your business income or CSR income. And even if it does, the policy says, the CSR rule says, if you are earning out of something, your CSR project, that amount should be used towards the CSR obligation itself. It can't be added to the business income of the company, right? So yeah.
Deepina, I hope that clarifies the question.
Hello.
Please.
Yeah, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes. So basically, for example, if an organization is trying to organize an one-time event and that cost is probably taken from the marketing budget of the organization, we, for example, if we organize a charity event, for example, a comedy show or a musical night, something of that sort, and we have a ticket window open on, say, Book My Show, portals like that, and if audiences buy and attend the event, the earnings that are made out of the collection, can that directly go to the NGO or can that be directly donated for a cause?
First of all, we need to bifurcate into two parts. One is I am giving funds for one of the event, whether that will amount to CSR. Answer is no. The second component is you are organizing an event, a charitable show, or probably for the betterment of the stage artist and all, and there is some collections getting income earned out of that event. Whether that goes to somewhere is something else. So that is something extra you want to you have to examine that, right? So to answer your question, one of the events such as that will not tantamount to CSR. But if you organize in such a way, like you conduct these kind of an activity on regular basis, right? you identify some of the local artists and ask them to train further generations into a new art or culture or something like that, and it's kind of an ongoing program, then you can definitely prove it to be a CSR project, right? It should not be like one of the event you have organized and then everything goes whoosh, right? So it's kind of an, you have taken an obligation, you have taken a project as your baby and you are running it throughout. That is the intention of the law. Hope that answers your query.
All right, thank you so much. So basically, organizations cannot have any sort of fundraising campaigns for the implementing partners, right? Under CSR law.
That's true. They can do that, but that will be over and above or outside the CSR purview.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have 2 more questions. Would you like to take it towards the end in Q&A or right now?
Is it related to the topic we are talking about?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So if a sister company bids for some work which are planned under CSR and their bid is lowest, can a partner NGO select the sister company as a service provider?
If I understood this query, it will be more of a related party transaction kind of thing, where some entity has bid for something and my sister concern wants to engage them. Is it something the query related to that?
So may I just allow the participant to...
Please.
Sushant, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Sushant here.
Yeah,
and thank you for asking me. So the thing is, if there is a sister company which we have and it is a service provider to other entities also, and my partner actually wants to have that service availed, and within that the geography my service company is giving the lowest bid, which they have kept as open tender. So will it be possible that my sister company allowed to take this activity or a service which has been asked by a NGO, which is my partner under CSR?
Okay, so if I understood your query correctly, so there is a third party implementing agency, which is an NGO, and they want to engage someone to implement my project, and that even that entity comes out to be my sister entity, right?
Yes.
Right. So that can be done. So the framework of the legal position is like the power is being given to the CSR committee and to the board of the company. So if this whole structure is put under the CSR policy and get approved by the board, the company can very well do it, right? They can identify like, okay, this is the cost earmarked for this and our implementing agency is such and such, and they are using one of our sister entity to even get this implement, or as a consultant or as an like a third party vendor, that can be put it into the policy and get approved by the board. So board is very much there to take cognizance of the structure and get it approved. That can very much be there. But obviously, as on the face of it, there needs to be there appears to be a conflict of interest, or appears to be an incidence of round tripping. Board need to take a conscious decision on that, whether it will be a transparent mechanism and we are able to prove like there is no hidden agenda attached to it. They are very much approve it, right?
Thank you.
So we have just one more question. Please. And it's related to the same slide. So I'll just allow Rajiv Kumar to talk now.
Please. Yeah, Rajiv.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. We are watching. I am from Jamshedpur, Tata land, you can say.
Okay.
We are watching that company. Most of the companies are spending their activities onto the bench, desk, and books onto the schools, different schools.
Okay.
But they are not allowing any kind of technical education as a part of CSR activity. But we are thinking in Jamshedpur that it is very much necessary for the children as of now. And if the companies are spending, why they are not spending in these particular area? So we are very much concerned whether any company is spending any kind of money in these kind of educational activity, which is very much needed for our society. So if they are spending, then we can reach to those companies also, so that they can invest their some of the CSR money in Jamshedpur also in the educational activity.
I didn't get really your question, but to give you an overall view, yes, the companies can contribute towards the infrastructure of the school and as well as provide content. So if you are able to identify an entity or a person who is ready to contribute towards the content or education material to these schools, that is more than allowed under the CSR policy, right? So you need to just convince or probably identify some of the education partners who can provide content for such kind of programs. Correct me if I haven't got your question.
Sir, my question is that technical, why the companies are not taking as technical education as a part of the CSR activity?
They are very much taking it. I know number of companies who provide technical knowledge or a skill development programs in their vicinity or to the areas identified by them through NIT, through APTAC, or through other technical education like NSDC, if you have heard of. Through NSDC also, they are doing skill development projects and providing skill, you can say skill training to the youth of that area so that they can be developed. Even the computer software trainings and even the training programs which provide people to the agriculture technology. So we have seen some of the projects. So it may be very, you can say, confined to that local area, and probably you haven't been able to identify someone in Jamshedpur, but I think you can't generalize it for the whole country. There are entities who are doing these projects in the hardcore skill development projects as well. But there could be a view like it's something which can't be valued in really valued. So that's why some corporate houses avoid getting into that. Getting it? Like, for example, if I am buying out the infrastructure for a school, it's very much hard thing. I can see, okay, how many tables, how many chairs and all that stuff. But if when it comes to the content, it's very hard to value it. And the developer of the content may say, okay, this is valuing 100 CR. And I may say, no, this is a basic education or this is a basic skill trend set. I may not value that much. So the absence of, you can say, valuer of that content really pays a problem amongst the corporate houses while choosing such kind of a project. So they don't want to get into all that nitty-gritties of it. And it's simpler for them to put money into something which they can prove to the management and to the stakeholders like this is something which we have contributed. Because this content development is something, the Fauziya is into content, so she can very much confirm that. Like, this is some area where there is a lot of scope, and as well as there is a lot of value addition attached to it, and you can't actually value it. Like, how much is the cost of such content? So definitely your point is right. Like, people do hesitate to get into the content thing and putting a value to a content or putting a money into the content providing. But yes, they prefer to get into the hardcore infrastructure projects.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions or should we proceed?
No, so please proceed.
Okay. Fine. So as we are saying, like, okay, expenses incurred in fulfillment of any act or statute is not. Then interesting thing is salary paid by company to regular CSR staff as well as to the volunteers of the company in proportion to the company's hours spent specifically on CSR can be factored into CSR project at cost of the CSR project. But there is also a view around it, like whether it need to be blocked under the admin cost of 5%. Ideally, it should be like, it can't be like, okay, out of 100 crores CSR project, you are paying 50 crores as salaries, right? So that ideally it need to be part of the admin cost, and real benefit should be. And then there are FAQs. This is coming from the Finance Act, like entities can't claim CSR expenditure as their business expenditure and book it under the books and reduce it from their incomes. The question generally comes whether it is profit before tax or profit after tax. So MC has clarified that while computing net profit for CSR, you need to see the profit before tax figure, PBT figure. This is again a practical advisory point, though although there is no specific tax exemption for the CSR expenditure. However, the entities who are contributing towards Swachh Bharat Kosh, Clean Ganga Fund, Prime Minister Relief Fund, PM Care Fund, or any such charitable organization which already has a tax registration under 80G can avail tax exemption as well of their amount contributed towards such organizations. Like for example, if you have an obligation to contribute towards CSR funds towards of 1 CR and you contribute that money straight away to Prime Minister National Relief Fund or PM Care Fund, you'll get 100% tax exemption. Whereas otherwise, if you are undertaking a project, you may not be able to get any tax exemption out of it, right? That's why people generally prefer implementing agencies who are registered under 80G. That gives them tax exemption to the contributor entity. So this is more from a practical standpoint. Like if your company is unable to identify a project or is not clear what to pick, what not to pick, they can simply contribute. These are generally done in the last moment kind of thing, like, okay, where the management was not aware whether they get the CSR thing is applicable. This was done mainly in 2015-16, where the entities were not sure whether they'll qualify and they'll need to contribute, so they can't identify a project and they simply contributed to these kind of funds, and they can simply still do it and get benefit out of it. So some of the entities which has that mental outlook of, because there is a school of thought where it's been seen that this CSR obligation is an additional tax on the corporate houses, additional tax of 2%, where this is generally an obligation of the government to undertake these kind of projects. This obligation has been passed on to the corporate houses. So they say, why to contribute? So these tax benefit is something which they can see as an advantageous thing, like, okay, they can contribute toward these funds, get tax exemption as well, and meet their CSR obligation as well. Next is, this is the topic which we have spoken about, CSR in kind, whether allowed. We have seen people during the COVID-19 times are distributing testing kits or PPE kits and other things to the hospitals and other things. So, and generally the pharma companies allowing free medicines and free things to the patients and all. So there was a lot of confusion whether this is allowed as a CSR expense. So section 185 also provides, like, company shall ensure, the board has to ensure that company spends. So in FAQ also, the company has to spend the amount is what is coming. So one view was they have to essentially spend the amount rather than giving something in kind if that is their product, right? But in one of the legal matters in the pharma company case, MCA submitted, like, pharma companies will get benefit under CSR rules if they donate medicines to poor patients who are afflicted by the life-threatening diseases and all, right? And similarly, as per CSR committee of 𝗖cie, a query was posed to them, like, suppose we are a diagnostic industry and would like to donate testing instruments to NGO or government lab for free. Will that be considered as part of CSR contribution? And if yes, what would be the cost we should take it? Will it be a cost or sale price? And on that, the committee has a view, like, it should be considered as CSR spend, and the CSR spend would be cost or net realizable value, which is low, whichever is lower, right? Ideally, my view is it should be on a cost basis. Like, if you are generally doing this for benefit of the people or just doing it for a charity, it should be on the cost. You should not add on your price value. And now, after this deletion of the phrase normal course of business on August 24, it is very much clear, like, even now the entities can take up the projects which are in kind. Like, if you have a stationery company, you can distribute such stationery. If you're an IT company, you can distribute computers, laptops and all that stuff and claim it as an CSR thing. right? And yeah, so similar is like the clarification amendments in light of the COVID-19's development. The department has come up on March 23, immediately after this COVID-19 is declared as an epidemic. They say, okay, the spending of CSR funds for COVID-19 will be an eligible CSR activity. So essentially, if you're doing any of the activity within the Schedule 7 and that is related to COVID-19, you can definitely claim it as an CSR expenditure. They also clarified, like, if you pay any ex gratia payments to your workers, either temporary, casual workers or daily workers, which is over and above your disbursement of wages. Like some of the people or the corporate houses has posed a query, like if we are paying salary during COVID-19 to our employees, that should be treated as a CSR thing. On that, the department has clarified, like this is a legal obligation of a company to pay salaries to their workers, be it may what is the situation or not. So it can't be treated as an CSR. But if you're paying ex gratia payment to your workers, which is over and above your wages, and it's kind of a one-time payment to meet the, you can say, crisis and all, so that can be taken up as an CSR thing. This is clarified on April 10, 2020. Then they also clarified, like the contribution to Chief Minister Relief Fund or State Relief Fund will not be qualified as an CSR expenditure. Only contribution to Prime Minister National Relief Fund, but State Disaster Management Authority contribution to State Disaster Management Authority is allowed. This was done in April 10, where we were facing the floods conditions in the northern eastern part and all that. So it was clubbed with COVID-19. So department has come up with, like, okay, if you are contributing to the State Disaster Management Authority, then it will be allowed as a CSR thing. This is the recent amendment, as we said, about the deletion of the normal course of business. This was allowed for the companies into the R&D activities of new vaccines, drugs, and medical devices. So they, although this is there in normal course of business, they can undertake this activity for the financial years 2021, 22, 23. And although there are some conditions, like these need to be carried out in collaboration with institute, as we have seen in Schedule 7, which is essentially Ayush and Ministry of Medicines, Technology and kind of thing. So you need to collaborate with them, and you need to disclose separately, like, okay, you have done this R&D activity specifically for vaccination of COVID-19, and you can treat it as an CSR expenditure. Then comes up the recent amendments which we have seen. I have tried to make a comparative table to give you an overview of so far what we have seen is what is the law of the land as on date. This is something which is yet to get implemented. Even the Companies Amendment Act 2019 has certain provisions relating to the CSR, but all the notification or these provisions are not yet notified, as we have seen in the ebook on Companies Act on the MCS site, and you can see otherwise also in the notification. All the sections of the 2019 Amendment Act are being notified except provision for CSR, which essentially talks about, you can say, transfer of unspent money to a specified fund under the Schedule 7, and there is a penal provision attached to it and all that stuff. So that is not yet been notified. Similarly, the recent amendment of 2020 is also received, as you've seen, received President assent on September 28 and become the act. But ministry is yet to notify, you can say, the sections which will have the or the dates on which the specific sections will get affected, or the effective date of the specified sections. Right. So you are able to see my cursor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So 135.5, as we have seen, is saying 2% of the of the average net profits you have to spend. So 2019 amendment or added a provision to it where it to say, like, okay, where the company has not completed 3 years since incorporation, that period will be treated as the remaining period, or the immediate preceding financial years will be. To my mind, this amendment has no effect, because I haven't seen any company within 3 years meeting or reaching that net profit, turnover, or net worth criteria. So it doesn't have any effect. Otherwise also, for example, if I am computing average of 3 years, I am anyways negating the negative profit of a year, right? So it's in anyways doesn't make any difference, but still it's a part of the, or more clarification to it. So they say, okay, if you haven't completed 3 years, whatever the period since incorporation will be treated as for computing average net profit, which is fine. There is nothing in 2020 amendment around this. Then in 5, there is also a proviso which says like you need to disclose in the board report when you fails to spend. And the proviso adds on in 2019, it says unless the unspent amount relates to any ongoing projects, right? So one is like there could be an ongoing project and you are unable to say, for example, you have earmarked 5 CR for a project and on the year 1 you have already spent 2 CR and there is an ongoing project where you'll be spending the amount towards CSR in the days to come. So the department has come up with a clarification like, okay, you can spend within 3 years, next 3 years. And if you are, so this provision says like if there is an unspent amount and it doesn't relates to an ongoing project, right? So there are 2 conditions, like you haven't been able to spend 2% and there is neither an ongoing project where you can identify and spend in the forthcoming years, then you need to immediately transfer such amount to a fund specified in Schedule 7 within 6 months of the expiry of the financial year. Like March to September, you will come to know, okay, there is an amount eligibility under the CSR and we haven't have any ongoing project or we will not be able to spend it, so we need to transfer it to the fund. So fund so far has not been specified. By my senses, there are 4 funds which has already been listed out in the Schedule 7. So one need to contribute towards that, but ministry has a right to specify any other fund, like for example, investor education fund could be there. A similar related provision has been put in 2020, which gives a buffer. Like one situation is you haven't been able to spend. 2020 says like, okay, if you are able to spend more than what was legally required, right? So you can take benefit of that. You can set off that excess amount in the forthcoming year. So which is a welcome provision, which also allows in companies which are generally doing this CSR contributions. So if you are spending more than what is legally required, you can take and set off in the next coming years. And then,
we have like about 8 to 7 minutes left.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up quickly. Okay, 6 is it's kind of an where you are, so we talk about the ongoing project. So if you are not able to spend in that ongoing project within the next 3 financial years, you are required to transfer that amount again to that fund, right? So both scenarios are covered. You have an ongoing project but you are not able to spend, you need to spend in next 3 financial years. If you are not, then you need to transfer to the fund. Second situation is if you don't have any ongoing project, you need to immediately within 6 months have to transfer it to the fund. Clear. 7 is specifying the penalty. Earlier it was as we see it as like criminal liability. You are punishable with fine of 50,000, 25 lakhs. Now it's like company is the penalty imposed on the company is twice the amount required to be transferred, or 1 CR, whichever is less. So this could be very huge amount and a huge legal liability on a company. As of now, the nature of the provision is spend or explain, but if it get in the subclause 7 get enforced, this will be a legal liability on the company. And similar to other provisions where you are failed to spend, you will be liable, right? And similarly for the officer, it's 1/10 of the amount required to be transferred to the fund, or unspent amount as the case may be, or 2 lakh, whichever is less. This is again 8 is the CG has a power to exempt certain kind of categories, which is fine. And 9 is this is for where a special provision for companies which has a CSR obligation of less than 50 lakhs. They are not required to constitute a CSR committee. This also doesn't have any much legal impact because anyways companies who are doing CSR regularly or will be doing in future need to have a CSR committee. But this is just to safeguard the small companies who doesn't have, because anyways their board has to take a decision on this. So it's a kind of a relaxation for that. I think that's it. I'm available to answer your other queries if you have. I think we still have, I think 5-7 minutes.
Yes, go on till 3:10. I just confirmed. So
Okay.
there is one more question. Should I read it out or allow the participant to talk?
Either way, I
think I'll let them talk so that it's addressed rightly.
Sure.
Anuj, please, you can unmute yourself and go ahead with the question.
Yeah, Anuj.
Yeah, hi, very good afternoon.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. I want to ask a question that can the CSR funds be given to a profit-making entity for a social cause, like setting up a waste processing plant?
Funds can be given to a profit-making entity. Repeat your question, sorry.
Can the CSR funds be given to a profit-making entity for setting up a social cause, like setting up a waste processing plant?
As we have discussed, as of now, it allows the companies to either do projects by themselves directly or through Section 8 companies or charitable trust societies made by themselves, or if they are using third-party Section 8 trust society, that entity needs to be having 3 years track record. So in 3 of the situations, there is no entity. They can either collaborate with them, right? Or it's not like the charitable entity or the society or trust can't make profit. They can very well make profit out of it. But as it stands today, it's need to be an implementing agency, which can be a Section 8 trust or society.
Okay. All right. Thanks for this clarification. Thanks a lot.
So, sir, next we have Kanmani Lakshmanan. I'm going to allow her to talk. And she's a CS and with 7 years, 7 years knowledge gap. Okay, please, Kanmani, please go ahead. Till she gets on, her question was basically, what are the career opportunities for CSR professionals?
Career opportunities for the CSR professionals?
Yeah, yes, sir. I was working in a steel industry in Chennai for 2 years. So I have just a basic knowledge in FEMA and those kind. Then I got married and I was in 7 years gap with the CS line actually. So I don't have experience as a company secretary. I had my management training in Chennai, but I still didn't work as a company secretary. So this is CSR course is a comeback for me to enter into the job market again.
Okay.
So as of now, I cleared my CS course in Companies Act before 2013. So still I'm not so much aware in the sections and other updates in the 2013. But I cleared the CSR course with a lot of love and passion. So I got good marks and I just came out. So after a year, I'm looking for good job opportunities in this CSR area. So what should I do? Should I do any MSW further?
You can actually. So I am also CS, so and a lawyer and advising on these areas. So this field is very vast.
Okay.
If I need to sum up the areas opportunities for the professionals like you and me,
Okay.
it is like you can get into a advisory role.
Okay.
Where you can advise the corporate houses what is the legal position, what is the legal framework of the CSR, how to, and then second stage comes is the ultimate implementation. Like you can help them in designing the CSR project, identifying the areas where the CSR project can be there. There are corporate houses which has their CSR departments within themselves, which keeps up identifying the projects, and overall monitoring of the project is a board responsibility. So they needs to have the regular monitoring thing done. And there are agencies which has a CSR advisory plus monitoring plus implementation role, right? So they identify a implementing agency for you. They do an overall inspection, overall monitoring of the projects, and they keep on reporting companies on a daily basis or on periodic basis. So the opportunities for professionals. Then the next thing comes is the audit, which we have seen. This is a new thing which has been populated, and people are misusing the provision, or in layman terms doing greenwashing of what they are doing. So there is a concept of audit, whether they are doing it right or wrong. And the Institute of Chartered Accountants has even include a certification on the implementing agency. So it's kind of a third party certification of whether the project was ultimately being delivered, whether the amount being spent on the project, whether there is a development, whether there is an ultimate benefit being provided to the society at large, or it's just an camouflage of round tripping and the money going in. Because initially the department has also seen, we have also seen the people have used funds to purchase land bases, saying that we will be developing a school or an sports activity or something like that. Because as we also know, these projects are not developed within a year. So it's kind of a 5-year, 10-year project. So they are even using such funds so that they can develop a land base for the company in the verge of CSR spending. That's why this CSR audit concept is coming in, and we hope like sooner or later as we progress, it's getting enforced, and people are getting into that field. So yes, to answer you, there is a lot of scope for the professionals like you and me to get into the advisory, implementation, audit kind of an area. And it comes with an experience. And I think to start with, you can look for the opportunities in the CSR departments of the corporate houses. Once you have gone through some of the projects, you will get the ground level realities, and then you can take it forward from there.
Sure. Thank you.
Welcome.
So at present, we don't have any other questions, but just to, lighten up the mood, although the subject was very interesting, I would like you to share about Mashiach, like the meaning about the firm you're associated with.
Yeah, so as I have initially told you, it's kind of an icebreaker. So everybody who used to get in touch with us and get to know the name of the firm, they used to say, okay, what is it, how to spell it? And so to let you know, it's kind of it's an Hebrew phrase, and it's denotes purity in your action, in your advisory, in your day-to-day affairs. So we have a client, in Israel-based client, who while doing a transaction, he suggested this while negotiating this with the third party. So we need to be pure, we need to be Mashiach, and how does it relates to it is like, okay, we said, okay, yeah, this is something we also advise to our clients, that you need to be pure to yourself, true to yourself. Like while if you are doing a transaction or not, you need to be true to yourself and advise the clients on the letter and spirit, so that they can take an informed decision. So this is the background of Mashiach as such. And we are good, like it becomes now an icebreaker for us. Like as you asked, like similarly people have asked, like, okay, what does it mean, and how to pronounce it, and how does it relates to your consulting. So this is the background. Yes.
So we have one question by Sanjeev. I'll just put him on. So that's Sanjeev Kumar, and Sanjeev, you can go ahead with your question.
Okay. Is there a change in reporting mechanisms, or under the new amendment acts, or like there is punishment, there is penalty? Is there a different reporting mechanism and accountability mechanism which are linked to BRSR or
Not so far. the 2020 amendment doesn't talk about the reporting format or change in the reporting format as such, but the sense goes because now there is a penal provision. So there will be a different type of reporting, like now this will be reported by auditors than by a company, as they do as kind of an contingent liability or kind of an penal provision, right? For example, if the companies are able to spend, so they need to look it into from the perspective of 2019 and 20 amendment once get enforced. So they need to report, the board, the auditors also need to report, and probably the directors need to answer such qualifications in the director's report, right? That is my sense. But as of now, as the law stands today, the position is still like either spend or disclose. So either you spend it or you disclose it in the given format in your director's report.
Just as an extension to the question, is the CSR reporting linked to the sustainability or BRSR formats which are now being introduced?
As of now, it is not, but many of the companies are voluntarily doing it because their stakeholders want that type of reporting. And it is slowly and steadily becoming part of the reporting format. As we have seen number of companies in their annual report or also disclosing in full-fledged manner like what all CSR projects they have taken, because they are nowadays taking it as a brand building exercise. So they are keeping it as broad as they can, and be it sustainability, be it international standards, or be it like monitoring mechanism, and even reporting or certification by a third party vigilator. So that is also being included in some of the reports. So yes, although Act doesn't require it, but yes, companies are voluntarily doing it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sunil.
Please.
So we'll take one last question, which is from Debelina Nag. And she says, what prospects open up for CSR professionals once they complete law, as in if they additionally complete law in addition to CSR?
See, CSR could be what I see, number of professionals which I meet in my dealing in this subject is some of the people are from the practical background point of view. They have worked with NGOs. They have the knowledge of the ground reality, how the projects get implemented. They have done social projects. So one set of professionals are such, and they are adding on the legal insights into it and putting a value addition to their profile. Second set of professionals are more from the accounting background, which provide the accounting support to the companies, how the project's funding will be done. And related is the legal professionals, because they need to structure the agreements and the documentation in such a manner that you enforce it, trigger-based funding to the implementing agency. Or if it's being done within organization, they need to monitor whether the funds are being used as per the requirements of the organization and the projects, and it's not being misused or overspent, right? So all the three set of professionals, be it hardcore ground level professionals or a legal or financial professionals, I see a lot of opportunities for them to get into this field and explore these kind of area. Because tell you frankly, there are not many professionals in this field as such, because people do look for professionals who can advise them, who can guide them how to get them implementing these kind of projects. Because companies are basically doing their business, so they know their model, they know their product, they know their selling strategy, but this is something which is additionally they need to do. And if it's obligation on them, they want to make maximum out of it. So that is the outlook of the corporate houses which we have seen, and it's a changed overview of our outlook, because this is now internationally being done, and there are some certifying agencies worldwide also which certify organizations who are doing CSR projects. So it's now added up to the brand image of the brand of the company, their products. As you have seen, like ITC is there, Reliance is there, Tata's is there. So you identify their products by the work they are doing for the community. So it's kind of that. So yes, there is a lot of scope for the professionals. You need to just see your area of interest and get into it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, definitely did. Thank you.
So, sir, I think now it's 3:10. I'd like to conclude if nobody else, there aren't any more questions as of now. However, I'm sure we can all reach out to sir on LinkedIn.
Sure. You can reach out to my email ID and contact number is also there. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any query. I'll be more than happy to share my experience with you. And it is a knowledgeable session for me also, because your questions give me a perspective to for the next sessions, I would say, or probably to have my knowledge sharpened and like, okay, yes, this is something which we need to look into or identify. So thank you all who have participated, and thank you for your questions. And thank you, 𝗺𝗺𝗃𝗀.
So, thank you so much, sir. And 𝗂𝗃𝗵𝗁 Lakshmanan says that she's looking for more sessions from you. And
Sure.
thank you so much, sir. It's been a very interesting and engaging session.
We recently taken a session on external commercial borrowings, and this is my next second session with 𝗺𝗺𝗃𝗀, and there'll be more because recently there are a lot of developments in the legal arena. You might have seen the labor codes coming in, the FCRA getting amended, the CSR amendment, the Companies Act amendment. So all sort of things are coming in for the professionals like us. So it's a obligation of the legal professional to get himself updated. And I think 𝗺𝗺𝗃𝗀 is doing a good job therein, so that professions, while sitting at home in this epidemic time, can sharpen their knowledge and skill set.
Yes, sir. So we hope to have you again soon. Thank you so much for your time and valuable insights.
Thank you. Most welcome.